The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for Autism Live. It is also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. We're thrilled to be here with you on this Thursday morning. Got a big show. I feel like Ed Sullivan. Big show. But we do. We have this new segment that I'm just loving. It's called Ask an Autism Expert. And we are, we've been, because you start with, what's easy and what's close to you, but we've been having a bunch of experts and we're continuing that today that are from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, and I'm getting to know all these people that I didn't know before, and I'm just so impressed with them. So it's a lovely thing. We started this because we just aren't getting through enough of your questions, and so I want you to know, keep writing your questions in because I got more people lined up to answer them. It's a really cool thing. But anyway, I want to point out to you that we're going to be with you live for the next 2 hours. And so we love for the show to be interactive. We love to hear from you. We want to know your thoughts, your feelings, your questions, your concerns, your gripes. Sometimes you just need a place to vent. This is a safe place to vent. So Samantha's going to show you some of the different ways that you can participate, some of the different ways that you can get a hold of us. And while she does that, I want to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, you'll see that it's about to change. But there is right now, it looks like a desktop with a computer on it, right? And on the computer screen, there's a triangle. If you click on that, that starts the live show or the most recently recorded live show playing. Now, up in the upper left-hand corner of the computer screen is a little memo tab. It's that dot with the lines next to it. If you click on that, you can go back through the 100 most recent shows that we've done here. So that's one way to find archives. Of course, there are so many more archives available to you on YouTube. But on our homepage, to the side of the computer screen is a series of white boxes. If you put your cursor in the box that says your question, all you have to do is type and hit enter. There is no login, there's no username, there's no password. You don't have to prove that you're not a bot. You don't have to give a credit card. It's totally free. It's totally anonymous. And I really love that about it. We do encourage you to give as much information as you possibly can, including where in the world you are. And by that, I don't mean your street address at all, or even the town that you live in. But if you'll tell me what the closest major city is, it gives me an idea of where in the world you are. And it also gives me a sense of what services we might be able to recommend to you, or if we know people on the ground, or a parent that's already there that's doing what you need to do. So give us as much information as possible. Now, I said parent, but I want to remind you guys that we welcome the entire autism community to this show, whether you are a parent, a practitioner, you yourself are on the autism spectrum, you're in love with somebody who's on the autism spectrum, you're a teacher, you're a grandparent, uncle, or you're a person who, is working with somebody who's on the autism spectrum and you just want to know more. Because you know what? To me, all of us together are the autism community. And we have a vested interest in this because we all want the same thing. Even though we may disagree on a lot of things, goodness knows that we can and will. But the truth is we all have one thing in common, and that is that we care about individuals who are on the autism spectrum and having them get access to the things that they need and that they be treated with the respect that they deserve, right? I think we all have that in common. So this is, I like to think of us as the UN of autism, that hopefully everybody can get their needs met here and have a forum from which to talk about what they need more of. So that's what we consider ourselves. Now, we have a lot of experts that are on the show, and I love bringing you experts, but I always like to remind you at the start of the show that I'm not one of them. I'm not, and I don't even pretend to be an expert in the field of autism. Now, what are my credentials to sit at this desk then? First of all, I am an autism parent. I'm the parent of a 14-year-old who's amazing, and I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky because he is amazing and because he got the support that he needed. Which is why I feel passionately about making sure that everybody else gets what they need, right? Or as close to it as we can get today, right? Because sometimes I know what you need, and if I could get it to you, I would, but let's, that may not always be possible. So let's get you what we can where you are in the world today. I also want to say that in addition to not being an expert, in addition to being an autism parent, I do look at it now, and I've had 12 years in this, it's just recently to cross the 12-year mark, 12 years in this community. And for, I think, 9 of those years, I've hosted a show in some shape or form and been interviewing experts. So I'm not an expert, but I do acknowledge that I've put some time in. And I've learned a thing or two, and I do have opinions, but I want to separate that from the fact that I'm not an expert, but I do have opinions, and I care. I truly, truly care. I want to help you to get what you need. I know what it feels like to feel alone on this journey. I do, and none of us is. It's what it feels like, right? But what it feels like and what it is sometimes are different. It doesn't devalue what it feels like. But I want you to know you're not alone, and that all you've got to do is reach out your hand, and I'm here to take it, and there are other people here to take it. And you know what I always say, we hold hands, we get through this together. Si se puede, right? Okay. So having said all that, on Thursdays, we like to start the show with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to figure out what in the heck are they talking about and why do they have to use these terms? I will tell you that on day 1 of autism, I was like, somebody shoot me, because seriously, I can't learn another jargon term, right? And then I discovered sometimes I'm slow, but it took me about 2 years. I realized, man, I'm wasting time having to stop and say, what do you mean? And what does that mean? That if I knew these terms in any field, jargon terms are meant to save time. They're very specific and they're meant to save time. So I tried to make friends with the jargon, and that's what I encourage you to do. That's why we do this once a week, and we give you first the actual definition, which I like to make fun of because that's me, and then we give you a working definition, which hopefully you can kind of dig into with a fork and go, all right, hold it up, what's it look like? Yeah, okay, maybe I understand this. And we go back over some of the terms because I think the first go round it's like, I almost get it. Second time I think I got it, and third time you go, yeah, no, that totally makes sense to me now, right? Everybody's that way. So today's jargon term is expressive language. Because if you remember, a week ago we did receptive language. I'm just making sure my mic is not rolling. Good. So when we're getting up to IEP season here, right? Some of you are already writing in that you're going into IEPs. And one of the things that you're going to hear, especially in a school setting, people are going to talk to you about somebody's receptive and expressive language skills. So it's going to be a big deal, especially in elementary school. And I used to hear that and go, what? It's important though. So let's take a look at what expressive language skills are. Expressive language, the production of language, including speech, signing, and or gestures for communication. Okay, there's not a whole lot to make fun of here, but I think it's important because we tend to say nonverbal a lot. I do too. We all do, and to describe individuals and what their capabilities are language-wise. But it's important to realize that if we're being actually absolutely accurate, part of verbal language is signing and gesturing. So that is considered verbal. So you might, when talking about somebody, if you really want to be specific, you could say somebody's non-vocal. But when we say non-verbal, for the experts, it confuses them a little bit because they think you're very literally meaning non-verbal, that they have no means of communication. So I throw that out to you just as a thing. But so keep in mind that expressive language, well, let's go on to our working definition. It's a child's ability to communicate their needs. So let's compare receptive and expressive, because receptive is everything that comes in and expressive is everything that goes out in terms of communication. So if you ask me to go to the door, there are a million different ways that you could do it. You could say, could you please go to the door, right? Vocally. Or you could say, right? And I look at the door and I'm, you point at me and you point at the door and I go, oh, you want me to go to the door. Those are both considered verbal. You could type it out to me and say, could you please go to the door? That's considered verbal communication, right? My ability to hear it and understand it and react to it is my receptive language. Your ability to communicate to me that you want me to go to the door in whatever form you choose is your expressive language. So here's the thing, in all people, autism, no autism, we have one of them is stronger than the other, right? It's very rare that people are exactly even with their expressive and their receptive languages. So stop and consider what that may mean to you in your life. If you are somebody like my receptive language is not as good as my expressive by about 1.5 miles. I'm just going to be honest. I don't learn well through hearing. I'm much more visual. And I think that I'm somebody who I don't have a hearing problem, but it takes me, it's like a tape delay. You say something to me and it just takes me a minute to sort it out, what you said, and then I can react to it, right? A lot of our kids are that way too. And I mean all of our kids, on the spectrum, not on the spectrum. A huge portion of the world has that kind of processing. But I can access things expressively much quicker. I come from a long line of people who know how to talk. My father went to kindergarten and he had to introduce himself and he said, I'm Norman Penrod, son of the great talker Frida Penrod. And I have been told before I am my grandmother's granddaughter. So expressive, I'm much, I don't know that I'm adept at it, but I can access it more. A lot of times I have to back up and say what I said again because sometimes I speak in a way that people don't understand. I don't entirely get this. When I ask somebody a question, they tell me everything but the question. I go, but that's not what I asked. This happens to me at least 8 times a day. So, there's language is big. It's very, it's not this easy thing. There are all these things that are happening around it. People are taking inferences, deciding. So, but expressive is your ability to communicate what you need or want, and receptive is your ability to take in information from other people and react appropriately within an appropriate time. So again, going back to if you have a child who has very little expressive, but their receptive is high, they can be little sponges and taking in everything and just not having the facility to have it move this way. And if we can strengthen that, kids take off. They take off. And that's not uncommon in individuals who are on the autism spectrum. Big receptive language, expressive language, real deficits, right? So we fill in the blank. But what if it's the opposite? What if, like me, somebody has big expressive and low receptive? We can work on that too. I mentioned the other day that there is a thing in skills. It's actually, oddly enough, in the academic curriculum, in the language curriculum of the academic curriculum, the language domain of the academic curriculum, there is a thing called phonemic awareness. and that helps with receptive language. So if you've got a kid that just isn't reacting in time, you want to go there. But for expressive language, the lessons are so many. And there are so many places in skills where they're expressive language, starting from being able to produce sound, but including being able to communicate without sound. So if you need to help somebody with an AUG device, and every kind of thing, including teaching inferences and how to repair a conversation and how to end a conversation, it's huge. And you're not going to need the whole thing, and a child that you're working with or an adult that you're working with is not going to need the whole thing. So what's great is there's an assessment that you take to see where the holes are, and then you just teach those lessons. Love it. That's why I love Skills. Skillsforautism.com. And the number is 877-975-4559. If you reach out to them one way or the other, tell them that Shannon sent you and ask for the Shannon Friends and Family discount. Just trust me on that. Okay, so expressive language, it's important. It's half of how we communicate. So, and it's the part where you get your needs met. If we see a kid who's got low expressive language, I guarantee you're going to see tantrums. And it's not just a kid. You see an adult who's throwing tantrums, and I'm going to guarantee you part of it is that they're not having a way to express their needs. And it isn't just, people don't just have a problem with speech. Sometimes, being able to read other people to know what you need to say so that they understand what you're saying. Expressive language is all of that. So keep in mind, it's a really big deal, huge. Okay, moving on. We always have a question of the day, and our question today is about expressive language. If you could say anything to anyone, what would you say, and to whom? Who would you say it? Man, that's got me thinking, because there's a lot of things that I'd like to say to a lot of people. I think if I could do anything this week, I think if you'd asked me this last week, before Wednesday, it would have been different. But if I could do anything, I would go speak to Congress this week about our schools and about school safety and school education. I think that's what I would do. And I would need to speak to all of them. So it wouldn't just be one person. But what would you say, and who would you say it to? And can you do it? Can you do it right now? Like, what's holding you back? So that's got me thinking. Because a lot of times I think, well, of course I would say, I love you to my son, but I say that so much that he goes, I know. And you know what? That makes me happy. Anyway, moving on. We always have a topic of the week. Can you guess what the topic this week is? It's communication. Because you know what? Communication is everything. I really, really heard it last week when we had the fabulous Anita Lesko and Abraham Nielsen, her husband, on the show. And they were so giddy and happy. And I was like, man, how do you maintain that years into a marriage? And just the way they looked at each other, wasn't it just, oh, if you didn't see the interview, you got to go watch it. It's just a lovely, lovely thing. It makes my face hurt. I said that then and I'll say it now. But, and I said, what's the secret? And they both said it's communication and accepting each other for who they are, which I think is pretty much, is not a great roadmap for love and staying in love. But communication is everything. If you think about all the problems in the world that could be solved by communication and perspective taking. But if you have the perspective taking and you can't communicate it, where are you? You're in your own mind going, I appreciate that other person's opinion. And they don't know it. So communication is everything. Communication in all ways, between the teacher and the student and the parent and the teacher and the therapist and the parent and the parent and the parent. And And the parent and the larger family, if you think about it, it's all communication. So we're going to be talking about that today. Now, coming up on the show today, we got I told you, big show, just like Ed Sullivan, right? Chloe Snee is our expert of the day. She's going to be joining with us. She's a CARD clinical supervisor and a BCBA, a board certified behavior analyst. Ooh. We have a very short interview with Bonnie Yates today. I'm going to tell you why a little bit later on. But then we've got a longer interview with the fabulous Stuart Duncan. Stuart Duncan is an autism dad in every sense of the words. On the autism spectrum, and a dad of, he's got 2 children, 1 on the spectrum. And Stuart is the dad who decided that Minecraft was a great thing for kids with autism, but when they were going into these different servers, they were having a hard time because their communication skills weren't necessarily what they needed to be. So sometimes they were being taken advantage of, and sometimes they were getting into situations in video games where they were being shut out, so they couldn't play anymore, or their feelings were hurt, or their buildings were being burned down. So Stuart said, this isn't going to work for me. He created his own server. It's called Autcraft. He's going to talk to us about that. And I love Stuart. He's just amazing. So that's a little bit later on in the show. Plus we have our mindfulness moment. We've got autism in the classroom and your questions and comments. It's all coming up. First, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to be back with Chloe Snee. Stick with us.
Looking for some cheap festive napkins for your next party with your kids? Look no further. We're going to be making some hand-dyed paper napkins. While we make this fun activity, you'll notice that these icons will pop up. These icons tell you important information about the skill and where to find it on the Skills program. Skills is an ABA-based online tool that helps parents create curriculum to help teach their children on the autism spectrum. And if you're already a Skills user, this will ensure that you get the most out of this fun activity with your child. Well, let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are paper towels, food coloring, water, a bowl, and rubber bands. Step 1, you're going to take your paper towel and you're going to fold it symmetrically into a shape. This is a chance to be creative to see how repeating patterns are going to be made. Once your paper towels have been folded into different types of shapes and patterns, you're going to take your rubber band and you're going to use that to secure it in place. These are my folded up napkins. Now that they're ready, I'm going to take my water and mix it up with the food coloring and submerge the napkins in it. Once they've been submerged with the food coloring, I'm going to take it out and lay it flat to dry. If you leave it in the water too long, they're going to completely disintegrate, so just leave them in for just a moment. I've been very patient, and here is my finished pattern napkin. Well, I hope you enjoyed this activity with me today. Until next time, guys, craft on. Bye!
To find more about Skills and to access all of the lessons you saw in today's Smarty, visit skillsforautism.com and click on the parent icon. Skills, the online autism solution.
Hello, fellow activists. Last week, I introduced you to step 5 of the 10 steps to empowerment, shore up spiritually. Let's talk more about finding ways to do that, how to find out what lifts your spirit, feeds your soul, and make it a practice. That practice is different things for different people. It could be the practice of meditation, of prayer, of community worship, or serving others. But it's the practice that will give you hope and faith and strength for the journey ahead, for the marathon journey of raising a child with autism. I get inspired every day by the families of children with autism that I come into contact with, like the parents of the nonverbal child who have not given up hope that that child will speak one day, or the grandparents who should be enjoying their retirement but instead are joyfully raising their adult grandchild with autism, or the mother who is fighting for services for her daughter while her Marine husband is fighting a battle to keep our country safe. They all inspire me. My grandmother, Diddy, who is an angel who still guides me every day, had this quote inscribed in her Bible. I sought my soul, but my soul I could not see. I sought my God, but my God eluded me. I sought my brother, and I found all three. I think I'm finally starting to grasp the meaning of that. So feed your soul, lift your spirit, and until next time, keep the faith.
Are those your eyes? Is that your smile? I've been looking at you forever, yet I never saw you before. Are these your hands? As a celebrity, whatever that means, you want to do what you can to give back. The way I've always looked at it, if I'm available, I'm going to be there. And when you get there and you see what folks are doing and the lives that they're touching, how can you not want to continue to be a part of it? And for the first time, I am looking in your eyes. What can we all do to make a difference? Not only with trying to find a cure, but to help the children and the families that may not have the resources for these kids. When you're looking back at me, now I understand what... None of us are doing enough, but I think that we're doing as much as we possibly can. Because we all live in society, and the more we can all do to help society, the more it helps all of us. Yeah. And for the first time, I am looking in your eyes, and for the first time, I'm seeing who you are. I can't believe how much I see when you're looking back at me. Now I understand what love is. Love is. For the first time.
Welcome back to Autism Live. While we're having a little bit of a technical issue when we're connecting with Chloe Snee, and while we do that, I'm going to move right ahead and go on to our mindfulness moment of the day. You know, mindfulness is not a new practice, but it is something that's really coming to the forefront while a lot of us deal with stress, especially those of us in the autism community. It's been documented many times now that folks in the autism community, whether you're on the spectrum or you're a caretaker for somebody who's on the spectrum, your level of stress tends to be significantly higher than Joe Average. And let's face it, Joe Average is fairly stressed, right? So one of the things that we know that works, that's inexpensive or free, and that's been very successful at creating a reduction in stress is the practice of being mindful. And that's a whole host of different things, including meditation. But it's a way of looking at each moment in time and being more in the moment and present in the moment. So today I want to talk a little bit about a film that I love. It's called About Time. And it is about a young man who discovers that there's a family trait in the men in his family that they can travel back in time. So just by concentrating and going into like a closet, they can concentrate and go back to something that happened in time to them, and they can do do-overs. And I don't want to spoil the movie for anyone, but there's a moment in time in the movie where it's discussed about how best to use this talent. And one of the things that he shows is that a really amazing thing to do is to go through your day like you would any other day. And then at the end of the day, to go back through the day and appreciate, knowing that everything is going to be okay without all of the worry of how was that going to turn out, or was this going to happen, or was that going to happen, and to go back without the worry and appreciate all the little things in life. And if you think about that, that's really what mindfulness is. One of the guests that we're going to have on the show next week posted on their site this morning and said, what's the biggest challenge you face today? And I responded and said, being present and finding the joy in every single moment instead of being caught up in the, just the whirlwind of surviving it and trying to get stuff done, right? Because that's the treadmill that a lot of us are on. And I really want to encourage, especially the autism parents watching, that I know, because I have been there and done this with you, how there's just it's overwhelming, right? And it sits on your chest how much stuff you have to do. And the truth is that when we start to cycle and think about everything that we have to do, we don't get as much done. It's just a fact, right? Whereas sometimes I call it the wind tunnel, where you're just in this space and stuff gets done. And you go, why? Why did stuff get done? Because your mind was in the right state. And you can only be in the right state if you're present. So it starts with that. And I think rather than if you find yourself cycling and thinking about everything you got to get done, or worrying, saying, what's going to happen? What's going to do with this? If you take just a moment to be mindful about what's happening right now, just for a minute. And it's so simple to go, okay, well, the lights are doing this, the air conditioning is doing this, I can hear the elevator, it centers you. And then, because I know you got stuff you got to get done. If you ask yourself, if I just get one thing done today, what would it be? If there was just one thing that needs to get done today, and focus on that. I think what you'll find is that thing gets done and a bunch of other things get done, but they get done with joy instead of this feeling of, it's a grind. I just got to survive. I just got to trudge, right? Man, I do that all the time. And I was honestly thinking about my mother this morning, and my mom was somebody who was always like, what's going to be fun today? What is going to be fun today? And if you approach life in that way, something fun happens. It just does. It's that positive assumptive question. So if we can have that opportunity to be in the present today, I know you still have stuff to get done, but give yourself the task of getting one thing done. If all you do is get one thing done today, it's amazing. If you do that every day for 30 days, at the end of 30 days, you got a lot done. And it's kind of crazy how much gets done if you do that. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, take a breath. Take 3 breaths, 3 deep breaths. Look around, notice what's happening right here, right now. Feel your feet on the ground, feel the chair underneath you. Feel that air going into your lungs. Where is the light coming from? Where are the sounds? What can you feel on your skin? Just be mindful for a minute and then ask, what's one thing I can do? I think you'll find the day goes better. Let me know though. Don't just take my word for it. Let me know. All right, we are going to take a break and see if technically we've got the ability to connect with Chloe Sneak, as we want this expert for you today. Stick with us.
Hi, I'm Yvonne Johansson, and this is My Little House.
My Little House is an interactive, multi-sensory educational felt toy that I invented to help develop children's language skills.
I love My Little House.
I've been working as a speech therapist for over 20 years. I have spent my entire career working with young children. I work with children with language delays, and I have many children with significant cognitive disabilities and children on the autism spectrum. It has been a constant challenge finding toys that are fun, educational, and actually engage my students. In every preschool, since I've been a young therapist, we carry on these felt boards. Kids love them because they're soft and they're fluffy, and there's usually these little pieces that attach to these boards because felt sticks onto felt. You bring them into the activity because they're putting a piece on the board. So it's almost kind of like magic. So then I just thought, wouldn't it be great if I could just take this one-dimensional board and make it into an actual three-dimensional toy? How cool would that be?
That's the idea behind My Little House. You can spread it out flat like a 4-panel felt board, or here's the cool part. In the blink of an eye, My Little House easily converts into a 3-dimensional reversible house.
This is the outside. This is the inside.
My Little House comes with 36 felt cutout pieces that match outlines in 8 colorful rooms. And they're felt, so they stick. Each piece inside My Little House has been placed with purpose.
For instance, in the kitchen, whole half, under on top, inside, big, bigger, and biggest, empty and full, circle, triangle, inside, outside.
Really cool thing, I have a nonprofit, Lecotech. They are the folks that put out the Differently Able Guide for Toys R Us. They've been doing it for 25 years. They gave me their seal of approval as a toy that they feel is a toy with purpose, and that will make a difference. But My Little House isn't just for kids on the spectrum or with significant disorders. It's also for typically developing 2 to 5-year-olds. It's a fun toy.
Oh, this is so soft. That piece goes.
Recently, I took My Little House to the American Speech and Hearing Association convention in Philadelphia, and the response from my peers was overwhelming. Hundreds of therapists, teachers, and heads of school districts wanted to order them.
It was real validation for me that this truly is a toy that needs to get out there.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod. I'm a proud autism mom, I'm a former educator, and I am the host of Autism Live. And as all three of those things, I want to recommend to you My Little House. This is one of the smartest toys I have ever seen for teaching language to kids who have emerging language. Whether they're on the autism spectrum or completely neurotypical, it's a great, fun, reinforcing toy, but it's especially great for our kids that are on the autism spectrum because it makes learning fun and it makes it tactile. They have these felt shapes and they get to match them up. And I'm telling you, even the adults love to play with this. We loved this toy so much that we wanted to be able to bring it to you at a great discount. So right now, if you will go to www.smartfelttoys, and when you get to the coupon code, put in a-live.com, you'll get $5 off. Isn't that great? And so I want to encourage you, go and get My Little House for all the kiddos in your life.
A lot of adults don't really believe kids. They'll think, kids are kids, what are they talking about? But when the child stands up for what they believe in, it's so strong and powerful. I first got involved with autism advocacy 4 years ago when my friend was diagnosed. When I found out about my friend's diagnosis, I didn't really understand what it meant. But it didn't matter to me or change our friendship. I didn't look at her any differently. We still had so much fun together. Now I know that she experiences life a little differently than me, and that's okay. Knowing what she goes through has helped me to understand and be more caring towards other people in similar situations. I got involved with ACT Today because I wanted to do whatever I could to help. They provide options like behavioral therapy, medical care, social skills programs, assistance to military families, and much more. Being there for my friend was my #1 priority. I've been volunteering and spreading the word about the cause via my social media platform because raising awareness is a crucial first step. There needs to be more kids and teens involved to make sure that our voices are heard just as loudly as the adults. You may be small like me, but your acts of kindness are not.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and we're at the ABCs and XYZs of Special Needs Conference. And this year, for the first time, they've got something really remarkable. It's the Entrepreneurial Boutique. These are all items that have been made and are being sold by individuals who have special needs. So we're going to do a little shopping and talk to some of these fabulous entrepreneurs. Come on.
My name is Molly Rarick, and I'm founder of Breed's Gift. We're a nonprofit that serves teens and adults with special needs, like Chase here. We were founded in 2013 and serve people in the Conejo Valley, Santa Barbara, and LA.
Our main objective is to give our participants the skills they need to gain a more independent life.
My name is Shelley Cox, and Lisa Zalagi and I are founders of Creative Steps and Create Micro Business Enterprises. And the items that we're selling here today are all made by the clients who have passions about what they want to make, and then they get the profits from what they make after we've paid all of the other expenses.
We are here today because my goal is to be independent, and also I would like to share all my artwork, and I would like to sell.
Thinking about at his young age being a businessman, it's amazing. I cannot be more proud.
Inclusion is everything. Feeling like we have a place where we belong, and when I say we, I'm first and foremost a mother of a child on the spectrum and not, and gym owner and now founder of carrying this to families who need it as well.
My son is extremely hyperactive. Getting him to calm down is a very difficult task. So the idea of Rock the Spectrum Gym, where he could just go and run and play and do all these fun things without any kind of worries and just go, go, go and bring down that energy, it helps us so much at home. In the home or at school, it's not acceptable, but this is the one place it is acceptable for the child to kind of be themselves and get it all out there and just really just be themselves.
It's an amazing place where my son could go and be himself. You get to meet other parents who are in the same journey as you are.
I think the most popular aspect of it is how they include all children of all types, not just only learning disabled, lower functioning, moderate functioning, high functioning, and non-disabled.
The people there are so friendly. Everybody's like family. They always greet you with a smile. There's not one negative thing I could say about any of the employees. They're all absolutely amazing. So I think every parent should walk in through those doors and see what an amazing gym it is.
Now a diagnosis being 1 out of 6 kids are in some way or form affected with sensory processing disorder or autism. That's why We Rock Now is on the rise. People want to be a part of it. People know that they have a community there. They know that they can learn more information about things that they don't know themselves or that they can share, build friendships, and basically get what you get in an OT facility, but it's not $150 an hour. It's $12.
Welcome back. I just want to say where the technical issue is being worked on. I really appreciate Chloe Snee is standing by. I appreciate that Aubrey is fixing things and Samantha is juggling chainsaws. While I just sit here and go, I don't know. But in any case, we are going to come back with Chloe Snee. But in the meantime, I want to go ahead and do our Autism in the Classroom moment. We talked a lot yesterday with Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet. She was answering questions from parents on a variety of different behaviors that parents were saying their children were exhibiting in school. And she was talking about a functional behavior assessment and how important it is to know the function of a behavior. So I want to back up just a little bit and fill in some jargon and things that were being discussed, because it was such an important conversation, and there were so many different behaviors that were being talked about. So everything that we do in life repeatedly, we do for a reason. We get some sort of a paycheck from it. We call that reinforcement. There's, for people who chain smoke, there's a paycheck in it. That's why they do it. It might, for different people, it's different things, right? For some people, it's because they look so cool, right? For other people, it's taking that deep inhalation that they don't do without a cigarette. For other people, it's the nicotine rush. So lots of different things for different people. And if we just assume, so often what happens when somebody says, I want to stop this behavior, right? But if you assume what the paycheck is, or you don't even bother to deal with what the paycheck is, a lot of times you're not going to be effective at changing the behavior. We know that if you really know what the function of the behavior is, there's a whole bunch of science that will say, oh, if the function of the behavior is this, then this is what works the best, right? Even in the classroom, even with autism in the classroom. So I mentioned the 4 usual suspects yesterday. Let's take just a second to talk about those, because there's really 5, but with younger kids, it's usually about these 4 usual suspects, but we'll talk about the 5th one as well. So the number one reason why kids do things in a classroom is for attention. That's the former teacher here. I'm telling you, it's the number one thing. There are some kids, I always called them the precious empty buckets. These are kids that just, for whatever reason, they have a greater need for attention, and they just, it's really hard to get their bucket full. And if you don't get their bucket full, they will act out because they want attention. And you know what? When you need and want attention, it doesn't matter whether it's good or bad attention. At a certain point, you'll take anything, right? And if you doubt that, like I always say, look at tabloids and you will see people engaged in very bad behavior just to get attention. Okay, so that's one of the 4 usual suspects. Another one that's very prevalent in a school setting is escape. You want to get out of doing something. And if you're a kiddo, going back to our communication lesson today, if you're a kiddo who doesn't understand the lesson or what's being asked of you, put that through your own filter. If you're sitting in a classroom where somebody is wildly gesturing and doing this and you don't get it, don't you want to leave? I do. I start looking at other people going, are you getting this? And if they're like, no, I'm not getting it either, then I go, let's leave. Why would I stay for this, right? And you know what's worse than everybody going, oh, no, I don't get it either, is when everybody else goes, yeah, no, I'm getting it. Why aren't you getting it? Oh, then I really want to leave, right? And that's how our kiddos are. So it could be a specific task that they don't like. It could be being with a person they don't like. It could be the time of day they don't like, but they want to escape from it. And look, if I throw a fit and you throw me out of the classroom and send me to the principal's office, woohoo, I won, right? So very important to know when it's escape driven. Okay, the next one is access to someone or something. So, sometimes I'll see kids that will behave in a certain way. I mentioned it yesterday that there was a kiddo that would run out of the classroom every day, and when he would, the vice principal would come and get him, and they would sit in the office and do this with pencils. I think initially he wanted to escape the classroom, but eventually he wanted access to sitting in her office in a cushy chair and bouncing pencils, which, if you don't understand what's happening in the classroom, sounds a lot better than sitting there and being the person that doesn't get it, right? Okay, so attention, escape, access to something. So the last one is the toughest one to solve. It's the toughest one to figure out that this is what it is, and it's the toughest one to circumvent, and that's sensory. You're doing it just because it feels good. So for the kids who, spit on their desk and draw in the spit, I'm not 100% of the time, but a lot of the time it's because it feels good. Sometimes when kids bite their hands in the shirt, it's sensory. Although it could be other things as well, depending on what happens afterward. So and then the fifth one, which we don't talk about very much on the show here because it's really mostly for people that are older, is control, having control. And later on it becomes a big thing that, for people who have anxiety, especially control, sometimes it doesn't matter what it is, but just to have control over something. So, okay, imagine for a second that a kid is engaging in a behavior, and the example that I always like to use is because it's easy, is the kid who's biting. So the child is biting and we go, oh, this is not good, right? Because biting, ooh, somebody's going to get hurt, and people will assume, oh, it's this. Oh, it's sensory. Well, it might be. But what we need to do is look at what happens directly before the biting and what happens after the biting and everything else that's going on. And usually you want a trained person to do this, and it's called a functional behavior assessment, and it's got several different aspects to it. They're like an investigator. They'll interview people and say, what did you see? What did you see? What did you see? Right? Then they'll go and watch to see if they can see the behavior. And then they might try different things to see, does the behavior happen in the absence of this, or does it happen in the absence of that? Right? So there's all these different things that go into an FBA. And you, as a parent, can ask for an FBA to be done on a behavior in school, or a teacher. It's very rare, and I think teachers get really about asking for an FBA to be done because it means somebody else has to come in the classroom, and administrators don't like that. But a teacher can. They can, and they have, and they do. You can. The thing is, you can ask your ABA team to do an FBA on a behavior, but if it's happening at school, they're going to have access to the school. Which depending on your school administrators, they may allow them in, they may not, right? Because they're so afraid that they're going to be found to be the thing that's causing it. Well, I got news for you. It's not about guilt and blame, but things happen in the classroom. You can't have control over everything as a teacher. And one of the reasons why it's important to do an FBA and figure out which one of these 4 usual suspects, potentially 5 usual suspects it is so you can do the best possible intervention. All right, we'll go back to the biting. Might be sensory, but what if the biting is for attention? And what we see is that, the child, something is happening with the class that's being dealt with as a group. The child bites the student sitting next to them, and the teacher goes, why did you bite that person? You shouldn't bite that person. It's not acceptable. You come over here and sit by me. I don't want you sitting by her because you might bite her again. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of attention. And it feels good to the child. So if we see that the behavior starts happening more often as the teacher is doing this, we would change our tactics and make sure that there is no attention given for the bite, but we would change the behavior beforehand, which would be to give the child a ton of attention before they can get to a bite so that there's no need to bite. You see what I'm saying? So function of the behavior. If it's in a classroom, ask for an FBA to be done. The school has the way to do it. Ask for it in writing. Now, I'm told that we have solved our technical issues. We want to thank Aubrey and Chloe and Samantha for working on it so hard. Let's take a short break, and we'll come back with Chloe Snee. Stick with us.
Logan Shepherd. At first glance, he looks like a typical American teenager. He plays in a band, loves hanging out with his friends, he doesn't like doing homework, and he's not really fond of broccoli. But Logan Shepherd is not your typical 14-year-old. Logan was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. He was nonverbal, made no eye contact, and his parents were told to abandon all hope. Instead, his parents began an intensive intervention treatment. At its center was a quality ABA program known as the CARD method. This is Logan Shepherd now.
All I really want to say is, I'm kind of copying Martin Luther King. I kind of have a dream, that one day, I can just, inspire people and never give up. Because, that's what I want to do in life. Because If I can succeed, they can succeed, and I will succeed.
To follow Logan's musical journey, visit www.facebook.com/officialdrummerrock or @drummerrock on Instagram. For more information on the card method, visit www.centerforautism.com or call 800-345-CARD. Rock on, Logan.
Welcome back. We have joining us via Skype Chloe Snee. And this is for our newest segment, Ask an Autism Expert, which Chloe is. She's a board certified behavior analyst. And Chloe, tell us a little bit about what you do at CARD.
Hi, yeah, so I am a BCBA. I have been working with CARD for my 7th year. And so what I do now is I'm one of our regional managers, and I drop in with all of our clinics here in the Chicagoland area to help families with services, help supervisors with their recommendations, and really ensure the high quality of services that we want to see here at CARD.
And I just want to stress that the quality of services at CARD is so much better than the quality of this Skype call. So just want to make that clear to everybody. But we're fighting through it. We're not giving up. And Chloe, you're just so amazing, and you've been so flexible this morning. I'm going to start with a question for you that says, my 5-year-old has for the past 4 months been having a lot of meltdowns. The ABA says it's low emotional regulation. Typically, it happens when he gets frustrated, when he can't draw something, or if he doesn't get out, of the car. Some days, though, we have a game we play that helps him. We say on certain days he gets out first, and other days his sister gets out of the car first. It usually works, but sometimes he cries uncontrollably and can't calm himself. I don't know if I should calm him or ignore. If he does this during OT or ABA session in his room, I'm seeing if I can find in his room, and he calls for me, and I usually wait until he calms down and then go into his room. The meltdowns don't happen every day, but even 3 days a week is much. My OT didn't like it when I went in the room when he was calling me and crying. He had calmed down, so I went in. She had told him to stop crying and calm down, and she would get me when we were doing a writing task. Am I doing something wrong, and how should I handle it? And thank you. There's a lot of information there, but I think I can really relate to this for a lot of parents, that somebody's working with your child and your child gets upset, and we're never quite sure what our rules are. We don't want to mess you guys up, but a lot of times I think as parents we do. Do we have Chloe?
Yeah, this is probably something that every parent with a child with autism can relate to. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, you're a little garbled, but we can hear you.
I'll try to talk very slowly.
Okay.
For a Chicagoan, that's very difficult. So yeah, there are multiple factors at hand here. You are dealing with really trying to understand what the fun is, and I appreciated your last segment really touching on that. Knowing what your child might be trying to communicate with the tantruming is going to be really key to resolving it. Oftentimes we're dealing with that poor communication is kind of a root issue. Emotionally regulated. So I think in terms of sessions, it might be good to look at how he can request you to come into the room outside of when, so that that's not the only way that he's able to get access to you. Being able to practice that in calm, successful situations will make it easier for him to communicate if that's what he's looking for. I think with the car game, that's an excellent idea. It might help to just add some visuals to it, so he knows, a picture of him plus a picture of his sister, and being able to see which one of them is going to get out of the car first is going to kind of help make that seem a little bit clearer for him. He may not fully understand why he's getting stuck or remember which day it's supposed to be. So having those visuals could help support that and make it more fun and more of the game that you're trying to have it be.
I love that. It got a little bit messed up in there. So just to translate for people, having a visual schedule for him of knowing whether it's the day that he gets to get out or not, because that will help him to be able to process it, and teaching him how to request for mom. What an amazing thing to remind us of, Chloe, that we don't want our kids to be throwing a hissy fit and then mom comes in and interrupts the session, but for them to appropriately request, can I have some time with mom? And the ABA and the OT should be able to handle helping to teach that in both cases. So wonderful. I so appreciate that. You're saying such good things. We're hanging in. So my next question that somebody wrote in is, my son asks for business cards in every store or place we go to. He is obsessed with them. Gift cards too. How can I stop this or at least reduce it to one business card a day? Right now he asks about 3 to 4 times a day, even after I say no and thanks. I love that our parents not only, they go, all right, well, I'd like to get rid of this, but, can I reduce it? And here's how many times it's at. She's giving you a baseline. I just love that. Okay. What do you think, Chloe?
I love this situation because clearly this child is really socially motivated, really wants to engage with people when he's out in the community, and that can be such a challenge for a lot of families. So be excited about the fact that he wants to interact with, especially strangers out in stores, I'm sure hotels, restaurants. So I think what you're really looking at is how to give him some parameters to it. An easy way to try to do that is by starting with making list cards that he can exchange to ask for a business card. I would have him turn it into you, just like a kind of like a backpack. This is his business card pass. And maybe this is something he can earn throughout the week. So giving him parameters on what types of things earn him business card passes. And then he knows how many he has available to be able to ask. It might increase the value of each one of those business cards. And you will start to see that slow down because be more particular about which business cards he really wants instead of all business cards that could possibly be available. So that helps to make it more of an exchange, and you can then have a limit on how many exchanges he's allowed to do in one particular outing.
I'm going to pause you for a second, Chloe, because I'm sitting here laughing along with the universe that here we're doing a whole show about communication, and we were talking about receptive and expressive language before. And for anybody who didn't really understand the receptive, this is it right here. Because Chloe was just saying something and we all wanted to know what she was saying, but pieces of it were missing. This is what it's like for our kids that have receptive language problems. So we're gonna accept that lesson and go, oh, okay, this is high irony that it's exactly what we're talking about. But so Chloe, back it up for us, because I think we lost some of the sense of it, but it sounded like you were saying that he could have a business card pass, and depending on, he can earn them doing good behavior, so that maybe on a given day he has 3 business card passes where he can go and ask for 3 business cards, but it's because he's done something to earn them. Is that what you said?
Yes. And having the yes, hopefully you can hear me.
Yes.
But having the pass, you can also limit how many times he can.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to be unlimited options, because when he runs out of passes, that's a good indicator for him that he's all done.
Okay.
He has nothing left to do.
Okay, I love that. It's very, we've talked a lot about the bedtime pass, and I love the bedtime pass because For kids who are having anxiety about getting out of bed, what we see is they start to hoard them. And I think that's the second part that you were saying, is that if he knows, if he looks and he goes, oh, I've only got 3 today, I've earned 2, I had 1 and I earned 2, then I'm not going to be able to ask for business cards. So he's going to start to discriminate for himself about, is this a business card that I really want, or I want to hang on to one business card pass because later on there might be somebody that I really need to ask, which is going to build his cognition and executive functions about it. And we do see that with the business pass. They'll start to hoard them with, I meant with the bedtime pass. I don't know whether I'm coming or going today. But anyway, I love this, Chloe, because it's a way of utilizing this thing that's very reinforcing to him to get even better behavior down the road, but also building skills for him to decide when to use it and not to use it with a very clear, you're out of business card passes. I absolutely love that. Okay, I'm going to move on to the third question here. We're gonna see whether the universe wants us to learn more about receptive language. My child has had ABA for 5 years, and he is 8 now. I feel like he has a lot of language in the sense that he knows his objects, actions, prepositions, pronouns, etc. When we ask him questions, for example, where is the car? Who's playing outside? In other words, he knows how to correctly respond to simple questions. We're at the point when I'm starting to feel like he doesn't understand language. He knows the answers to these questions, but doesn't know what they mean. My supervisor says that's intraverbal language. How can we teach our child to use language in a more meaningful way? What are the next steps to programming? He's a smart boy, but I feel like we're getting stuck here.
This is a big hurdle for a lot of kids in what I call the transition from table to floor, meaning from a structured learning environment to play and real life. So some of the real tools is language in a play dynamic. So with prepositions, if he's very into cars, trains, any type of pretend toy, you can start to practice using those prepositions with him, having him tell you what you do with the toy. Put the train under the bridge, go through the tunnel. So you're getting that interaction and that back and forth with him directly. So he's actually using his words to say something new. Creating opportunities for that spontaneous language is also really important. And the biggest example I give to families is when you're on the road, most people find out every little thing they see. There's a cow, there's a horse, there's a school bus. So create those types of games in your everyday trip. Make it so that it's a fun thing. How many points can you get? How many red things can you find? So they just start using their language without it being a question first.
I love that. We didn't get all of it, and I'm sitting here laughing and crying because the universe is cruel. But I want to point out, if you're feeling frustrated because you're not able to hear everything that Chloe is saying, this is how our kids feel. This is exactly the level of frustration that starts them. And imagine if this was every interaction that you had, that an expert is standing there saying something wonderful and you can't get the whole thing. But so correct me if I'm wrong, Chloe, I'm going to translate here. The part of what you were saying is that we need to not, but a lot of times, the speech people will hold, and she's gone. But a lot of times, there she is. The speech people hold up the, thank you. The speech people will hold up the card and say, what is it? And then the child says, it's a car, right? And there's a time and a place for that, but you need to be with providers that are taking it the next step, that you're putting it into real life, that it's and that we as parents and as teachers, that we can build on what happens in the ABA session by not just asking them the question, but constantly bombarding them with language, like you said, and making it fun. So when you're in the car, playing games, because so much of the day we're taking kids to and from therapy and doing things, and you have limited range of motion because you're driving and they're strapped in the car seat. But as you were saying, make it a point system, and saying to them, how many red things can you find? Which then has them going fire truck, and then you say 5 points. I love those kinds of games because kids get excited about it. It's something to do in the car when you've got few other things to be able to do. You can even be working on math skills of adding the numbers together, but it's a fabulous, fabulous thing to do to build language. Did I get it?
Yes.
Oh, Chloe, this has been a very interesting back and forth. We have to have you back on the show because you are a wonderful expert, and Skype did not do you justice today.
Well, maybe someday I can come in person.
That would be lovely. Let's do that. The next time you're going to be in the LA area, and maybe I'll get to Chicago sometime. But I appreciate everything that you do for all the kiddos that you do it for, Chloe. And this has been such good information with an extra added layer that we got a wonderful example of what it's like to have receptive language issues.
Thank you so much. I think you're exactly right. Sometimes we learn from what the world sends us, and we definitely did today.
We definitely
but
did.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chloe. Take care. Oh my gosh. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling frustrated now, right? And if we didn't have the ability to laugh about it and know that it would be okay, and figure it out, at a certain point, we would throw a tantrum. And if it continues, I might even throw a tantrum. We're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we are going to have a short segment with Bonnie Yates, and I'll explain to you why that in just a few minutes. Stick with us. We are here at the Los Angeles Zoo. We've got quite a group here. I've got my son, Jem, Mike from the A Word, and Jack Riley, star of the A Word, and Jessica. We've got a whole crew of people, and we're going to take a tour around the LA Zoo and see some exciting animals. Sound good, you guys?
What are the safety rules, though? Who do you have to stay next to?
Daddy and Dieter.
So remember what we talked about? That every time you do something good, I'm going to write it on my hand. When you get 35 of these, what are you going to get?
3 hours of reading.
Yes, it's not a secret. You can tell people. What kinds of things do you need to do to get a mark on my hand?
Being kind. And good listening. Jem, can you show him where the chimpanzees are? Can you point it out to him?
Show Jack Riley. Tell us what your responsibilities are here at the LA Zoo.
I am the manager of volunteer programs at the Greater Los Angeles Zoo Association. I oversee the docents, the student volunteers, the general volunteers, and community service volunteers.
Give us an overview of what kinds of things people can see at the zoo.
There are lots of animals to see. We have a lot of endangered. We participate in a lot of conservation programs, and we offer a lot of education programs for our community, for school groups, for members, special needs.
What kinds of accommodations can you make when somebody has specific issues?
We have our special needs outreach program, and where we have a van that goes out into the community, and we bring a handful of animals to facilities that can't quite get to the zoo. So that could be a school, that could be a retirement community, that could be a hospital, and there are some courthouses that we visit as well. And we bring a couple animals and we talk about them, and it's kind of a fun experience. So that's our outreach program. And then on grounds, we also have tours, and we offer special needs tours for people catered to their needs. We have our petting zoo, so you can go and you can pet some goats.
We're here from autism-live, and we were wondering if you could tell us what it's like to be a goat in the zoo. Really?
And we have our condor rescue zone, so you can go in and pretend you are a condor, or you could be a biologist, or you could be a vet. And it's kind of fun.
Thank you for all the work that you do here and for making it accessible for all of our kids. We're here with with Janet Jackson. Janet, tell us what your role at the zoo is.
My role is a docent, and we're volunteers.
How did you learn all the things that you know?
Well, that's the great thing about the Los Angeles Zoo. We have a special docent program. It's one of the most stringent ones in the country. Actually, it's UCLA accredited class.
Well, it added so much to our visit to the zoo today. So I thank you for all your knowledge and all your giving to the community.
Well, thank you, because I had a special needs child too, and I think it's so important that they interact with animals, and that helped my son when he was going through so much trauma, that we saw that he was able to grow and to expand a little bit, and it just helped us as parents because we had a tool to use, and we saw the love and the care that he was able to bring out just by touching animals and being around animals, because there is no judgment there.
Amen to that. Well, thank you for paying it forward, because you are. I definitely saw you doing that today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
What was hard for you guys today at the zoo, do you feel?
To be completely honest, I was about to say this is the easiest, best outing I can recall. My concerns are, I think we're sort of past elopement, but it's always on my mind when it's just with the two of us out in a, you can get 20 feet away if it's busy and be lost, be misplaced. But nothing like that happened today. There were a lot of people helping me, of course.
It was interesting for me because Jem hasn't been here since he was 3, like right after we started therapy. And I remember that was hellish, the day that we were here. Sometimes I don't notice the progress until we're out someplace like this. Do you feel like that's true too?
Yes, today I was actually comfortable with him being 15, 20 feet away. And even if he wasn't holding anybody's hand or anything, I was comfortable. And that's a new feeling.
I watched that and I said, man, there's no way we could have done that at that age. So he's doing really well. And I was so engaged by how Jack Riley is so aware of the circumstances around him. He's really doing great.
Yeah, thank you. He's curious. He's and he's just learned a lot. I mean, I can't give enough credit to Miss Jessica. No disrespect to any of our other therapists, and she's been with him for the whole time. So that's a constant in his life, and I dread the day when she's not.
It's always amazing. We had our rock star on our team. There's always one therapist that just becomes a part of your family forever. What would you say to parents who are afraid to do it even with an aide?
I understand your fear, because I've always had it. But sometimes they surprise you. I know it's called a spectrum for a reason, and my son is not like any other son or daughter, and so I can't advise you on what may or may not happen. We were always worried about transitions. They're getting better because we do it, and explain what is expected before you get here. That was a hard lesson for me to learn. But every time I don't explain to him the expectations, I have more problems. I have more transitional issues. But when he knows what transitions he's going to face that day, he handles it. So my advice would be, talk it out, but come do it, and come again, even if it's a horrible experience, because it might be. You got to do it the first time before you can do it the second time. So.
I think in general, I explained the expectations here and we carried it out of my hand. I agree with you. It's super duper important. I think it's good for us too, because then we know what we're expecting too.
And they've engaged each other a little bit, which I was very happy to see.
Thank you so much for coming and doing this play date with us. We had a really great time.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it, and it's just a great experience. I can't wait to tell my wife how well he did. So.
And let's do it again sometime.
Okay, anytime.
It was a great day. I have to say, it was, I'm not kidding you, like 108 degrees. And so like the makeup, as I was saying to Samantha just now, my makeup was all in my armpits by the time we got to the end there. But what a great day. And it just breaks my heart to see how little my kid was now that he's 6'2". Okay, that's how long ago that was. In any case, we've been waiting. We weren't able to have Bonnie live today. I just got to be honest with you. So we pre-taped a little bit earlier, and we had a technical. I don't know what's going on. We had a technical issue, so we only have a portion of it. The last question that she answered. So I first of all want to say how much we appreciate Bonnie for being available at all. And making herself available at another time. Bonnie is coming to us from Hirji and Chow, which is an amazing law firm here in Southern California. Bonnie is an autism mom and a special education attorney, and Hirji and Chow is a law office that deals very specifically with education issues and discrimination issues. They're really amazing, and I want to encourage you, if you have a question, especially in the California arena, that you reach out to Hirji and Chow, and Bonnie will be happy to give you a free consultation to figure out whether you actually need a lawyer, which is very, very useful, I can tell you. I also want to say that usually there's a disclaimer at the start of Bonnie's segment that she tells us that her license is for California and for things in the federal court. So if you are asking a question that is from a state other than the state of California, you're going to want to check your local laws and perhaps find a local attorney. So having said that, I want to read for you the question that Bonnie answered, and then we're going to cut right to her response. The question was, are schools responsible for things that happen on the bus? My son came home with a black eye. Teacher and aide say that he did not have it when he left school. I'm sick. He's nonverbal. I don't know if I will ever know what happened, but I think that it had to have happened on the bus. What are my rights, and who is responsible for making sure that he is safe? And Bonnie had a very interesting answer. Let's hear what she had to say.
It's a complicated question. He came home with a black eye. I'm assuming he doesn't have bus aid, which maybe if he's nonverbal, he needs to have. If anything happens on the bus on the way home from school, yes, either the bus company or the school can be liable. It's considered to be an extension of the school day. And they are supposed to file an incident report about what happened. Absent that, if you ask for an incident report and there is none, and they don't say that he has, they don't know how he got his black eye, the only other thing I think you can do is talk to other parents and find out whether anybody knows what happened on the bus. She doesn't say whether she interviewed the bus driver. I would ask the bus driver what happened. I would try to get the incident reports. I would talk to other parents. What your rights are and who's responsible for making sure he's safe. Well, the school's responsible for making sure he's safe. And, he did sustain an injury, presumably on the bus. The problem is that usually for attorneys to take those kinds of cases, there have to, and not charge the parent for the casework, there usually have to be more significant injuries. At a bare minimum, though, they could go for a consultation with an attorney and see what the attorney wants to do about the black eye. And you could certainly write a letter to the district and say this happened. You don't know what the explanation is. He left home. He was fine. Obviously, he was either injured during the school day or on the bus, and you demand that they initiate their own investigation. But, people feel understandably very vulnerable when they have a nonverbal kid and that person comes home and is injured. The presumption is that something happened at school, and it's not right that there's no, explanation for what happened. It's just not right. It's not the way you would treat somebody else's kid if they got hurt at your house. It's the same kind of thing. So the school is responsible, but you are going to have to push the school to give you the incident report, let you, talk to the people that you want to talk to, and then, let the school know that this is unacceptable behavior and you're holding them responsible and you expect that it won't happen again.
Now, Bonnie, I'm going to ask something, and I'm sure it's going to be inappropriate, but a lot of times we hear stories in the news of parents that things like this have gone on and on and on, and then the parent does something that we widely acknowledge is illegal in almost every state here in the United States, but parents get desperate and they send some sort of a device to record what's happening, whether it's, you know, we've seen the parent who dropped a little digital recorder into the child's pocket, we've had nanny cams in backpacks. You know, I'm sure that's not entirely legal, but does it help the parent to figure out what's happening? Is there any kind of a payoff for doing that? We can't advocate it, right?
Well, in California, you have to have two-party consent to record a telephone conversation or a conversation. Interestingly, a video is not subject to the same rules because there's no expectation of privacy. The camera's out in the open. Everybody can see that they're being recorded and in theory can protect against that if they want to. However, the law in California also says that the exception to the general rule that this kind of recording is illegal and is in fact a felony is that if you are engaging in the recording in order to prevent the commission of a felony, there may be an exception to the general rule. And if child abuse is occurring at school, that's an exception to the general rule. I'm interested to hear that you've had a lot of parents come forward who've done this kind of recording, because we actually had a parent come to us and she had sewn a recorder into her son's pocket, and she had also recorded without permission at an IEP meeting. And we had to raise the issue of the exception because we tried to get the recordings into evidence, which we were sort of only able to do in a limited way, which is a whole different story. But I'll tell you something. I obviously cannot advocate, nor can you, for people to engage in, essentially electronic eavesdropping. On the other hand, the two instances in which this mom had somewhat randomly recorded both picked up terrible stuff.
Yeah.
And so it let us know that what she was telling us was really what had gone on, whether we could prove it or not. And so in that sense, her story was somewhat unusual. I won't say far-fetched, but it let us know that she was telling the truth. But, you can get in trouble for doing that, and that's the problem you have, is it's illegal.
Yeah. Okay. Just wondered about that. Bonnie, we thank you always for being with us. You are an amazing resource, and we just adore you. And I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.
Thank you, Shannon. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Take care, Bonnie. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back. We've got a great guest coming up, Stuart Duncan, so stick with us.
What is autism? What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
I've been asking myself that for a very, very long time.
Let me think about that one.
Trying to
Jeez. Let me think. Oh man, that's a rough one. Yes.
Autism.
Autism is a neurological disorder that affects many of our kids in different ways.
It's a learning disability that affects the cognitive functions of the brain.
A lot of people have the misconception that it's a disability, and it's really not.
I look at it as like a special gift.
When one person thinks differently from another.
It's an opportunity for everyone to learn to understand someone that's a little different than them. Autism is the ability to educate.
They're given so much talent in different areas.
To me, autism means a chance to be with and be around people you really care about. Autism is beautiful.
It's a way of seeing the world differently.
It's always unique, totally intelligent, and sometimes mysterious.
Happiness that comes out of my son's hard work.
It's a movement.
Unpredictable.
That's right.
Awesome. Love. The field I want to work in.
Laughter, fun, joy. Autism is beautiful to me.
I want you to remember these three words. There is hope.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are joined right now by a very special guest. Stuart Duncan is joining us. And this is not his first time on the show, but unbelievably, it has been 4 years since we last had him on the show, which some very adamant viewers had reminded me. I didn't realize it had been that long. So Stuart, we welcome you back to Autism Live and thrilled to have you here. For people who didn't see the interview 4 years ago, you are an amazing autism dad with 2 sons, 1 on the spectrum. You yourself have a diagnosis, an Asperger's diagnosis. And the reason why we really want to talk to you today is that you have created an answer for so many of us with something called AutCraft. So welcome back to the show. And maybe we should start for people who don't know, what is AutCraft and how did it begin?
Yeah, AutCraft is basically a Minecraft multiplayer server, but it's specifically for people with autism and their families. So siblings are welcome to join, their parents, even friends. If they have a special friend that they like to play with, we're not going to say they can't play with their friends. So specifically for people with autism, though, because back in 2013 and 2012, I heard from a lot of autism parents who were mostly not reaching out to me, but reaching out to other autism parents asking if their autistic children like to play Minecraft too, because their children were being bullied on public servers that they tried to play on, just because they were a little bit different. You know, they didn't get the social cues, they got angry easily, and so they were bullied often quite a bit. And the more and more I saw parents reaching out to other parents trying to get their kids to play together, I thought that maybe I could help and I would give them a safe place to play.
And so for those of us who are computer illiterate, Stuart, because we don't understand this whole idea of they're playing a game, but it's on different servers, is it the same game? What can you do to explain to those of us who just don't get it?
That's basically it. Like, there's different ways to play the game, right? Like the Xbox, on your phone, and on your computer. There's also PlayStation and all those things. In some devices, like the Xbox and the Wii U and those things, you can directly connect to a friend of yours, and suddenly you're playing the same game together. You're both playing Minecraft, and you're both in the same world, occupying the same space and working together. But with the computer version, which is the most popular version, there is no way to do that. You can't directly connect to one other person and suddenly be playing on the screen to get, like, you can't see the other person on your screen in front of you just by connecting to them. You need a place that you can connect to, which is basically a server off somewhere. My server is in Vancouver, Canada. And it's hosted by a hosting facility, and so when different people around the world, which is now my server has like 160 different worlds that kids are coming from, they all connect to one central place where when they all sign on, they can all see little blocky Minecraft avatars of each other, and they can talk to each other and interact and play together there.
And what's, for anybody who has a child who's played Minecraft, you know what I'm talking about, that there is this sense of a loss of control, that your kid is in this world. It's almost as if you drop them off in the Mall of America by themselves and you have no idea what they're going to find or what they're going to interact with. And what I love about AutCraft is that you've kind of put a bubble over it and said, you know, we're going to adhere to some very specific rules, and you kind of keep eyes on, and you have other people who keep eyes on to help, not only, you know, to help make sure that the interaction is proper, but to help spur better interaction, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We have what we call console, which is a web interface to the server. So they're seeing 3D graphical representations of each other and what they build and stuff. But the admins on the server, which is myself and 9 other people, we have a web console that we can have on our phone and on our computer. So even if we're in the kitchen making dinner, or we're out with our kids or something, something's coming up or whatever, we can still have our eyes on the server and see the text scrolling by. So we can see what they're saying to each other, even in private. We can see the commands they're running. We can see what people are doing, so that we can make sure that there are no fighting, there are no trolls, you know, bad people getting in. We could just make sure that everything is running as smoothly as possible. But also we have junior helpers, which are the kids themselves, which are now, actually, we just changed that to helpers, so that includes all ages. But also kids as young as 6 or 7 years old that can help, and they can monitor the server. And then we also have senior helpers, which are adults, and then the admins, as I mentioned. So we have all these different ways to keep an eye and make sure that no bad people get in, and that there's no fighting. We do, to be fair, these are kids that are as young as 6 years old. So sometimes they'll get into an argument or even a fight or whatever, and we'll be monitoring it 24/7, and we'll take them aside and talk to them in private. Other kids don't see it so that they don't feel embarrassed or anything. But at the same time, sometimes we actually just let them, so long as they're not insulting each other and name calling and stuff, we'll actually let them solve their own disputes, and they learn from it. And their parents are very grateful for that sort of thing.
And you've had quite an outpouring of people who love this idea and have loved using your server. Tell us some of the success stories that have come from this, Stuart, because I know that there are many.
Yeah, some unbelievable, crazy success stories. We've been, I started it in June 2013. It was December 2014 when BuzzFeed contacted me and did an article about how we're saving lives. Kids sign on suicidal and talk to us all the time, and parents are, telling everybody and writing testimonials how kids are making friends for the first time ever and things like that. And then from there, we were on television and the BBC and the Today Show, and that continued until last year in May. We were in PC Gamer and Mashable and Good Morning America and all over the place, and that went crazy. And also I was approached by TED Talks, specifically in Toronto at York University, to give a talk about my server and how I created the community and how I keep it safe and how the kids progress and do well. And that TED Talk has now been featured as of a weekend ago, Friday, on the TED Talks website, TED.com, on the front page. And that has just about 500,000 views now in just over a week. So yeah, it's been pretty surreal having people all over the world wanting to talk to me and hear about what I'm doing and be a part of it. And it's more than I ever imagined when I started a little tiny Minecraft server just to help out some parents and their kids.
And this has not been easy for you, we should say that. I mean, this is something that was purely born from passion, but I've kind of watched over the last couple of years, there've been some times that you've been doing this out of the goodness of your heart, and it takes a lot of time, and there've been some times that I'm sure have had to evaluate and go, wow, is this worth it? What's your secret for getting through those difficult times, and what spurred you on to get through them?
When I started it in 2013, I had a job. I was a web developer, and that was my income. And I thought that a few people would join the server, and I would be able to keep an eye on it in my spare time. And I got 750 emails in the first 2 days, and it just went nuts. So I did the best I could. But as I said, suicidal kids were signing on because their parents were being mean or denial or even abusive. They were being bullied at school. They didn't fit in. There was a lot. And these kids would need me at all hours of the day because it became a worldwide thing. And it just got too much to do a job and Octcraft at the same time. So in October 2015, I started a Patreon page where I can accept donations from people on a monthly basis instead of just one-time thing. And I basically told people on the server that I just can't do both anymore. I really want Octcraft to do well, and I want to be there for those kids, but I refuse to charge for it. It has to be a free service because parents have to pay for the game. They have to have a computer. It's enough of a burden already, and a lot of these parents don't have money. So I would rather just the people who have money can donate, not force people who don't. But I can't do my job at the same time. I was letting down my boss and my clients and things because it was, 14 hours of Octcraft and 8 or 9 hours of web development. And at the same time, my wife left me. And so I ended up with this big court battle just to keep my kids. And that cost me a lot of money. So suddenly my job was gone, and I was just making a little bit of money from Patreon because most people didn't have any money and they didn't have a lot to give, but they did. They gave me enough to be able to pay my rent and pay my bills mostly. But then with the court costs on top of it, in November 2016, Yeah, November 2016, I actually had to claim bankruptcy because everything was too overwhelming. But I stuck with it. I had an ex-wife who was telling me to quit playing video games and go out and get a real job and support the kids and everything. And then I had a judge telling me the same thing. She actually awarded child support to my ex who was making more money than me. Wow. And wanted the kids. And so I had to pay child support because she said that I'd have the potential to make more money if I stopped doing ArtCraft, and I refused. And I just kept on doing it. So now here I am a year and a half after that happened, and my Patreon page is actually paying the bills. And I'm actually, I don't have extra money by any means, because a single father making, whatever, I think my Patreon's at $2,500 a month is not a lot. But the people supported me, and now I'm actually making an actual job of it, and I'm in TED Talks and stuff. So, I just believe that these kids need this place, and so I'm going to stick with it.
Well,
no matter what.
It's an amazing story, and the parents need it too. I think a lot of times parents aren't aware of how much they need it. When your child is playing on a video game, and we have a lot of experts who come on the show, and they have a lot of different opinions about video games. My personal opinion is that it is an entree point. I was just watching a video with Dr. Temple Grandin, and she was talking about the fact that she met her friends through areas of like interest. And I think that what games you allow your child to play makes a big difference. Like if you just say, go play whatever you want to play as long as you want to play, that could very easily be a bad thing and teach bad habits and not develop your child's skills. But if you have your child using a video game to learn social skills, then you're cooking with gas. But for a parent, especially if we're working, and then, there's the homework time, and then you want to give them a break and you don't want to be sitting over their shoulder constantly, how do you know that your child is utilizing the social aspect correctly? You don't, unless you're doing ArtCraft. And how do you know that your child isn't getting the things that children will see, some of these video games have things that pop up that have women that are scantily dressed. They have people that are suggesting things, asking for your kids' phone numbers, and they do it very, very stealthily. Now, you can't have eyes on that all the time. You can't and allow your child to do what they want to do. When your child is in ArtCraft, Stuart and other people have their eyes on it, and that is worth being a patron. It's a great way for your kid to build their social skills and to do it safely. So we love ArtCraft. We think that it's a really incredible thing here at Autism Live, and I highly recommend it to our viewers. If they want to do it, Stuart, if they have a child and they want to get them on ArtCraft, how do they sign up? What's the process?
Well, first of all, they have to have Minecraft, and specifically the Java edition. Like when you go to minecraft.net, that's their official website. You can get the computer version, Java edition. They gave it the name. You get that. It's like $30. It's not that bad compared to most games. So once you have that and you have your unique username, you can go to my website, artcraft.com, and fill in the whitelist application, which is basically we need that username you just gave us and an email address to contact you, and a little bit of information like how old and if you can speak English. And if you're the parent signing up, then there's your parent contact info too, because if anything happens, good or bad, I often email parents even just to say that your child did something amazing. You put in your parent contact info there, and I can email you there. And once approved, we send you the instructions and the rules, and you can sign on right away.
And then within those instructions, does it clearly outline what your child does to invite other friends so that they can play with friends?
Yeah, exactly. It tells, it informs the children and the adults what you do if something bad happens on the server, what you do if you want your family to join, if you want friends to join but they don't have autism, they're welcome, but you have to mention who your friend is on the server so that we know, stuff like that. And of course, how to load up your game and put in our server details in order to connect. It's all in there.
Okay, and again, no cost to do that, but we really want to encourage people, if it's meaningful to you, that you make it meaningful for Stuart so that he can stay and continue to do this? Is it very clear on the website how they get to the patronage page?
Yeah. I have at the top of the page in the menu where it has the whitelist and the rules and other things like that. There's also a donation option where you can donate one time, or you can go to the Patreon page and do a monthly pledge. And the monthly thing, it could be $1, right? So, I mean, if all 500,000 people watch my TED Talk donated $1 a month, I would have servers all over the place. But of course that didn't happen. But I mean, if a handful of people pledge $1, which is less than a cup of coffee, then that means kids around the world have a free place that they can go to and be safe.
Which is really remarkable. And remember that you as a parent can sign up, which means that you have the opportunity to hear directly what's happening with your child. So if they're consider this. So your child is playing on the server, and your child, we see this with kids on the autism spectrum all the time. They have mad skills, things that they can do, but socially there might be something that's tripping them up. So your child is on the site and loving the site, but they keep doing something that makes people not want to play with them. Eventually, we could put them someplace else, and they would get so frustrated that maybe they do something worse than what they were doing, or they stop playing the game, right? Well, Stuart's folks can help to guide them to say, hey, consider asking somebody this, or if it gets bad enough, you'll send an email to the parent saying you should know that this is what's happening. They don't, I know my son has, when he was younger, just got booted off a site where they banned him, and I still don't know what he did. And it might have been something that he could replicate and do it again, and I'd rather know what it is, but he was very upset and said, I got kicked off. I have no idea what it is. For no reason.
It's always for no reason.
And right. Well, he said, I don't know what I did, and I believe him that he doesn't know what he did because, and this was when he was way younger. So you can combat all of that. Whenever a parent says to me, I'm concerned about how into video games my child is, or they say, I'm concerned because I don't know that it's safe. Both cases, I say send them to Autcraft because you're going to maximize your time doing something that's valuable. And it is valuable. It is a currency in today's world, knowing how to communicate in these games. We can't, I believe that these kids are going to go to college, and it's going to end up being important because they're all into it.
I heard from one kid at Christmas. He hadn't been on the server for a while. He came back at Christmas when all the other kids were on, and he told me that he was starting high school when he joined the server over 4 years ago, and now he's finishing high school, which is mind-blowing to me. But also, he got himself a job at Lego in Europe. He's in Europe. He got himself a job at Lego, which is his dream job. And he specifically signed on at Christmas just to thank me and to thank Autcraft, because he said without Autcraft, back then he had no friends and he felt like he didn't fit in. And it gave him the courage to not only make friends, but to take risks and try for things. And he tried for his dream job and got it. And he just wanted to come back and tell me. So that was pretty amazing to me.
That is very amazing. So let's play what if for just a second. If you were to get everybody who watched the TED Talk to give $1, you were saying you would have servers all over the place. Would you branch into other games, Stuart? What would be the dream scenario?
It's tricky because other games don't offer the flexibility and the support that Minecraft does, that I can offer the safety and security. Like, I would love to be able to do the same thing with Roblox, which is another big game.
Yes.
Similar but different, but they don't have any way for me to do that. I can't mute people or, protect people's buildings or protections, but you know what I mean? Like, there's just, on Minecraft, I can literally create my own plugins, which I have done.
Yeah.
That makes it so that, visually impaired children can add line separations and stuff to split up the chat, make it easier to see, or to have their names highlighted, or, to store their animals in a virtual stable so that you literally can't see them, but you can pull them out anytime. That wasn't there before. That sort of stuff I can do in Minecraft, and I can't do in other server and in any other game, really, which is the marvel of Minecraft. But to answer your question, I would have more languages, because I can only do Autcraft in English, because I can't keep anybody safe in any other language I don't speak.
Right.
I would have servers around the world so that people in Australia don't have the lag problem connecting to Canada because it's so far away. They can still play, they still do and everything, but sometimes at peak times it can get a little laggy. So I would have other servers there. But also I would like to branch out for other people, Down syndrome and Tourette's and ADHD and stuff like that. I get questions all the time. How come you don't allow this sort of thing for other learning disabilities and disorders? Because all these kids need it too. And I say, well, first of all, autism is what I know.
Right.
I don't know about those other things, but also resources. I just don't have the resources to help everybody in the whole world, and I really wish I did.
Well, maybe, you know, sometimes we speak things into the universe and they show up, so maybe that will happen. Now, do the Minecraft people, have not acknowledged what you're doing? Do they know what you're doing? Have they weighed in and said, this is awesome?
I know that they know what I'm doing. When the TED Talk went live, like it was the actual featured big image on TED.com, I tweeted to some of the people that make Minecraft, and one of them retweeted it, and it got a lot of tweets. But beyond that, not a whole lot. I know they know about it, and I've emailed them once upon a time saying, you know, I just want to say thanks to you guys for your hard work, and this is what I'm doing, and it's changing lives, so just wanted to let you guys know. And they emailed back saying what you're doing is wonderful. And it was literally that simple.
Okay.
So they know. But I get the impression that they can't, you know, endorse one server over another, no matter how good it is or what they're doing or whatever. My headphone keeps coming out. But they do know, and I know that they're happy about it, and they're retweeting and stuff. So, I mean, if it makes them happy to know that their work isn't just a game for people, then, you know, that's good enough for me.
What an awesome, awesome thing all the way around. And for people whose children aren't playing Minecraft yet, I want to just do a shout out and say this is a great game to get them involved in. And there are lots of girls who play Minecraft. We love that it's equal opportunity for boys and for girls. And it really is an amazing world with a lot of good things for all kids, but especially for our kids on the autism spectrum. I don't know exactly what the different elements are of Minecraft that make it so reinforcing for our kids, but we know that it absolutely is, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Two things. One is that, first of all, everything it has rules, right? In the world, like water only goes so far, electricity only does certain things. Everything has structure. You know exactly what to expect from everything, which is important for kids with autism and in routines, and, you know, being able to control your world to an extent. But at the same time, it's a big old open world, big old sandbox to play in, so you can do literally anything. So tons of freedom, very structured. You don't get that usually in life with anything. But also in Minecraft, which is my other point, is there are no boys and girls. There are no skin colors. There's just funny looking skins that you can pick and choose and change. Nobody cares what bathroom you use. Nobody cares, you know what I mean? Like, there are no world borders. There are no rich and poor. It's just everybody is all equals in this world. You all start out with the same stuff, and you can all go do the same things. So nobody really judges anybody else. You don't know if the person that you're playing with is 6 years old or 60. You know, you don't know where they come from or what's going on in their lives. You just know that they are a nice person and they're helping you and you're having fun together. And to me, that is the best thing ever.
Yeah, it's a powerful thing.
You can't do that anywhere else.
It's a powerful, powerful thing. Well, tell us again, how do they get to your site? What is your site again?
Autcraft.com, AUTCRAFT.com.
We've got it there on the screen. Stuart, you're an amazing dad, and thank you for persevering and for believing in what you're doing, because we all know what it's worth and how powerful it is. I'm sorry that others have not always seen that, but thank you for persevering. What a great, great service you are to the autism community.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, you guys, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to be back with more Autism Live. Stick with us.
So we're going to to do down dog next. So with down dog, there are several different ways that you can do it, and I want to show you first and then help you with yours so that we can work on what feels good for you, okay? All right, because there's no right way to do it. It's more about what your body likes, all right? So for me, what I'm going to do is start off with my hands at the top of my mat, my headlights. My fingers are aiming towards the top of my mat. And then I'm going to tuck my toes, and then my head is also going to drop, and I'm going to look between my toes. Okay. And my body should be, or hopefully, like an A shape.
Or V.
Or V, yes.
Upside down V.
Yep. And so if your quads are tight or your hamstrings are tight, you might need to bend your knees a little bit.
Send it to you.
Or if your shoulders are a little strained or a little tight, remember to push in through your feet. But also sometimes what feels really good is going down your forearms like this. You can actually start out this way instead, it's a little easier. So your forearms rest on the floor. You still tuck your toes, and then you're still looking between your toes. But rather than being on your hands then, your weight's along your hands and your forearms. Okay? All right. So, now it's your turn. Okay? So, yep. You're going to do on your hands? Okay, yep. So your fingers are facing the front of the mat. Or are you doing forearms? Forearms? Okay, there we go. Wow, you're very bendy. Very nice. And your gaze is right here between your toes. Excellent. Very nice, Jem. Wow. Awesome. Feet are a nice distance apart. How does that feel?
Okay.
Awesome. You want to come down? Excellent. Good. Good.
Welcome back. I wanted to say that we had a comment that came in on YouTube from a gentleman who said about Stuart Duncan, this guy has done a great thing. We are all happy constantly here, and it's a wonderful place to be. I was overwhelmed with how many welcomed me last year rejoining after 3 years or so. I have a wonderful time. And you know, I think it's remarkable. I've been so filled. See, I'm going to get emotional, you guys, but I've been so filled with joy this week as I don't always love Facebook, right? And Facebook has been particularly hard this last week, but I have to say that, you know, it's the yin and the yang of everything. That as much as I've seen and heard some things on Facebook that just once again have just rattled me to my core, in amongst all of that, I have seen parents of individuals on the autism spectrum that I've known for years now do amazing things. That yesterday there was a post from, you know, I get attached to you guys. I know that you think that that I don't, and that I don't know who you are, and I can't remember everybody's name and which state they're in and all of that. I don't, because I can't remember my own name half the time. I don't even know my child's phone number. I'm just going to admit that. I need my tissues. But I get attached to you guys, and we have different names for different parents that write in on a regular basis, you know, like Haircut Mom and Strawberry Mom and West Virginia Mom and all these, you know, and the Florida contingent and all, and others that don't necessarily have names, but, you know, I know who your kiddo is, and I know, you know, what some of your challenges are. And it's just been amazing to me how many people posted on Facebook in the last week amazing things that were happening. You know, in one case, the child who's turning 16, and mom posted a video of him singing a James Taylor song in second grade. It just blew my doors away. And a mom yesterday who posted and said that, you know, her child, her daughter asked to go to Girl Scouts, and that they practiced, you know, interactions and how well she did. And it made me cry. I have appreciated so much to be a part of your journeys and to see you having breakthroughs. To a mom of an older son who has, made a huge decision recently to do a big push to teach him a bunch more stuff. I have to tell you, I'm so proud of all of you. I know what it costs mentally, emotionally, and, monetarily, right? But I'm so proud of you guys, of what you do every single day, how you fight through, find your place. Some of you, it's with your kiddo and you're still fighting the good fight, and that's the first thing, right? Others of you who've moved on to not only fighting the good fight for your kiddo, but are starting organizations and continuing organizations that make a difference for other kiddos. I'm just so proud to know all of you. And I just wanted to let you know, I see, I notice, I cheer. I don't always get a chance to say so here on the show because, it gets so busy, but I wanted to take just a second to tell you I see you, and I'm proud of you, and I'm proud to know you, and proud to be on this journey with you. You are my tribe, and we are a fierce tribe, and it is lovely to be with you. So I just want to say that as I cry all over you, but also, as we're here at the end, we're hoping tomorrow to be at the Abilities Expo with a live feed. So if you get a chance on Facebook, take a look and see if we're there. We're gonna fingers crossed. We're trying to work that out. And then next week we're back with some amazing shows for you. I mentioned earlier we're gonna have Jackie McDougall on the show, and she's gonna be talking about some things to get moms back in a place to thrive, right? So that's going to be really cool. We've got Vince Redmond next week. We've got more experts that are with us, and more moms doing great things. It's just going to be another great week, but it's all about being here with you guys. So keep tuning in, telling us what's going on, and si se puede. We get there together, right? We can do this. All right. I love you guys. I'll see you next week. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.